A woman may act like she's over you, but here's when regret really kicks in. She'll smile, post pictures, laugh with her friends, block your number, pretend like you never mattered. But deep down, beneath all that noise, there's a ticking clock, and when it strikes, her entire world flips. You're not the one who lost. She is. And this video, this moment, is where you finally see it clearly. Comment, I'm reclaiming my value. Number 1. When you pull back your energy. You show up every day consistently, without fail, calls, texts, support, presence. And she absorbs it like it's owed. Like you were born to orbit her moods and validate her insecurities. And the moment you stop, when you step back not out of pettiness, but because you're tired of being the only one showing up with real effort, it shocks her, because she never thought the man who moved mountains for her would go quiet, not angry, not dramatic, just silent and focused, not to hurt her, but to save himself. And the silence isn't empty. It's filled with discipline, with a renewed sense of self-worth, with clarity, because now you wake up not wondering how to make her happy, but how to build your future, and she can feel it, not just see it, because the things she once dismissed as ordinary, your texts, your attention, your curiosity, are now gone, and that absence screams louder than any argument, louder than any closure, and you don't post cryptic quotes or send late-night texts. You just vanish from her emotional world and reappear in your own reality, and every day she doesn't hear from you. She questions if she ever really had you, or just got used to someone who gave too much. And that's when the slow burn of regret starts. Because deep down she knows she never matched your consistency, never matched your loyalty, never met you halfway, and she didn't realize how much space you held in her world until that space became empty. And no matter how many distractions she throws at herself, no matter how loud the world is around her, she notices you're quiet, because your energy was once a part of her daily rhythm, and now the rhythm is off, like a song missing its beat. And while she's busy pretending she doesn't care, while she scrolls through curated dopamine from strangers, the one connection that actually had depth is gone, and gone in a way that doesn't leave room for return, and you feel it too, not regret, but relief. Because for once in your life, you're no longer drowning in someone else's emotional debt, and you don't feel guilt, because this time you understand you were never wrong for loving hard. You were just wrong for thinking she would do the same. And now you rise differently. You speak less. You think more. You say no without explaining. You make moves without posting. And for the first time, your peace isn't dependent on being chosen. It's rooted in becoming. And that's what she never expected. She thought you'd be waiting, lingering, hoping. But instead, you're executing, planning, working, transforming. And with each step you take away from her, the image of the man she lost sharpens in her mind, and it eats at her slowly, because it wasn't supposed to be this way. She was supposed to outgrow you, but now she watches from a distance as you outgrow her, and that hurts her more than she'll ever admit, because you didn't just walk away, you elevated, and elevation doesn't chase, it attracts. And while you were healing, building, reflecting, she was convincing herself you were just another guy who cared too much, until your absence became too undeniable, too powerful. And now she's left with the memories of the man who used to make her feel like the center of the world. And she realizes too late that she was never the center. She was just part of the story you were trying to write. And now the pen is back in your hand, and the next chapter has no room for reruns, no room for women who confuse effort with weakness, who see consistency as clinginess, who treat reliability as routine, because you've grown past all that, and you finally understand the kind of woman you need isn't the one who makes you chase her attention, but the one who respects your energy enough not to waste it. And that's the shift. When you go from proving your worth to protecting it, from begging for appreciation to demanding respect with your actions, not your words. And if you want that shift to happen for real, you start with one thing: Cut off anything that makes you question your value. Delete the number. Unfollow the profile. Unsubscribe from the drama. Start replacing every moment you used to give to her with moments that grow you. Take that time and reinvest it into yourself. Learn a new language, build a business, clean your space, organize your priorities, and document everything. Not for the gram, but for your own accountability. So every time she checks in to see if you're still stuck, she finds you 5 levels ahead, and she knows deep down she can't access you anymore. Not because you blocked her, but because you no longer orbit her. And once you stop orbiting someone who never truly valued you, you become untouchable. And that's what makes you unforgettable. Not because you begged to be remembered, but because you became impossible to replace. And if you're truly ready to make sure you never go back to giving your energy to the wrong people again, it's time you listen to the Stoic Relationship Blueprint, a powerful, life-changing audiobook built entirely for men like you. It's packed with timeless Stoic principles that'll give you immediate clarity, emotional strength, and the tools to reclaim control over your life and relationships. You can now listen to it while walking, jogging, training, or even driving, and every time you do, you'll feel yourself becoming stronger, clearer, more grounded. This audiobook isn't just something you hear once, it's something you carry with you for life. The link is in the comments. Number 2. When you're not available. She gets used to the access, the 24/7 hotline of reassurance, attention, availability, and she doesn't appreciate it because she confuses your readiness to respond with having no better options, no higher priorities. So when you finally pull back not in anger, but because you've realigned your focus, when your replies slow down, when you stop being instantly reachable, when you no longer drop everything to accommodate her moods or demands, she starts to notice the shift, and at first it frustrates her. Not because she misses you, but because her sense of control starts to slip. She wonders what happened, who you're talking to, why you're suddenly not always there. But what really eats at her is the realization that she's no longer the center of your attention, and now the void she once ignored starts to feel heavy. She tells herself you're just busy. She tries to pretend she doesn't care, but she checks anyway, watches your online times, scrolls your feed, rereads your old messages looking for signs of change, because she's addicted to the control, to the power of knowing you'd always be available. But now she has to wonder, and that wondering drives her insane. And you've stopped operating from her clock. You've stopped over-explaining. You've stopped being predictable, not because you're playing games, but because you've finally learned how costly it is to give unlimited access to someone who doesn't value it. And in that space, you're not just harder to reach, you're harder to replace. Because now your time is filled with meaningful tasks. You've created structure. You wake up with a schedule that isn't dependent on someone else's emotional weather. And she sees it. She sees the shift in how you show up online, how your energy feels different even in silence, and it scares her because she realizes she's losing her emotional leverage. And you don't argue, you don't block, you just become unavailable, and that hits deeper than anything else, because in a world where everyone is always online, always chasing, always reacting, you're doing the opposite. You're calm, focused, you move slowly, intentionally, and that forces her to sit with a truth she's not ready for. She never thought she'd have to chase you, and now the dynamic is reversed, not because you wanted her attention, but because you stopped needing it. And that switch is where the regret begins, and it only deepens as you continue to detach. Because while she's checking in subtly, liking old posts, sending vague messages, you've trained yourself to not need validation. You've replaced scrolling through her feed with journaling your goals. You've replaced overthinking with action, and that shift turns you into a version of yourself. She doesn't recognize anymore, indifferent, unavailable, unbothered. And you don't explain the shift. You don't write essays about how you feel. You just move on. And that silent discipline forces her to look inwards for the first time because she's no longer sure what to expect from you. And that confusion grows into anxiety, then into quiet obsession, because she knows deep down she created this version of you with her own neglect, her own assumptions. And now the man she once had unlimited access to doesn't even flinch when she disappears, doesn't double text, doesn't chase. And that's when she realizes you were never weak. You were just loyal, and she mistook your loyalty for desperation. And now she wants access again. But the locks have changed, and the house she used to walk into unannounced now requires a key she no longer holds. And that's what stings. Not that you're gone, but that she no longer gets to decide when and how you show up. And the longer you stay unavailable, the more your worth multiplies in her mind, because scarcity creates value. And now she remembers the little things, the way you remembered her schedule, the way you noticed her mood shifts, the way you listened without fixing, and all those things that were once invisible to her now shine like gold in hindsight. And the sad part is, it's too late, because now you only engage with people who bring clarity, not confusion, who respect your time, who understand that attention isn't free, it's earned, and you become the kind of man who doesn't respond to passive aggression, who doesn't chase mixed signals, who doesn't bend for breadcrumbs. And that kind of man is rare, and she knows it, and she wants it back not out of love, but out of ego, because it hurts to see you give to yourself what she thought only she could receive. And every time she sees your name without a blue tick, every time she sees you viewed her story and didn't engage, every time her subtle attempts to get a reaction fall flat, she spirals deeper into regret, and you don't even know it, because you're no longer watching her life like it's a show. You've exited the theater, you're building your own narrative, one that doesn't feature a woman who took you for granted, and that's how the tables turn. Not by revenge, not by games, but by discipline, by the kind of self-respect that doesn't require approval. And now she scrolls through your digital shadow, hoping to see a crack, a sign you still care. But all she finds is evidence that you've evolved, that you've upgraded, that the man she once had unrestricted access to now chooses who gets his energy, and she's not on that list anymore. Not because you're bitter, but because you've seen what it costs to give yourself to someone who only values you when you're no longer available, and you'll never pay that price again. Number 3. When she sees you doing well. She scrolls through her feed, not expecting anything, and there you are. Clear eyes, steady posture, no signs of regret, no trace of desperation. You're not posting for her. You're not trying to prove anything, but your growth is visible, undeniable, and it punches her because it's the one thing she never prepared for. She thought walking away would leave you stuck, questioning your worth. She assumed you'd cling to her silence, that you'd stay emotionally stranded, replaying what went wrong, hoping for a redo. But instead she sees you looking lighter, clearer, surrounded by people who respect your time, and you're smiling. Not for validation, but because you've finally found peace away from someone who only noticed your value after losing access to it. And the reality of seeing you, not only okay, but better, more focused, more purposeful, triggers a collapse in the illusion she built around herself, that you'd always be there waiting. And now that you're visibly improving without her, she can't help but compare that version of you to the version she last interacted with. And the difference hurts, because she realizes too late that your silence wasn't punishment. It was preparation, and what you were preparing for was a life without her chaos, her indecision, her emotional inconsistency. And now that you've detached from the drama, you're glowing differently. You move slower but with more precision. You're showing up with more presence. You're building routines that don't include chasing someone's attention. And she notices the difference in your energy, even if she doesn't fully understand it. And that not knowing makes her spiral, because now she's on the outside of the life she once took for granted, and no matter how many men come her way, no matter how many dates she goes on, they all fall short because they weren't forged in silence. They weren't built through discipline. They don't hold themselves like you do now because you've stopped seeking comfort and started seeking growth. And she feels that deeply, not because she misses you, but because she realizes you were the only one around her who brought peace instead of drama, order instead of chaos. And now you're applying that peace to yourself, your finances, your health, your mindset, and it's magnetic, not just to her, but to everyone watching, because your journey no longer revolves around approval, it revolves around legacy, and the people you attract now aren't just curious, they're inspired, and that contrast is what breaks her, because she had access to you before the glow-up, and now you're untouchable. And when she hears your name, it no longer comes with pain. It comes with a story of the one who got away. And you didn't leave with bitterness. You left with structure. You started applying every principle you neglected when you were trying to make her feel safe. And now that you're building a foundation she can't access, she starts questioning her choices, not because she wants to fix anything, but because she's watching a man she thought would fold turn into a man who folds nothing, who accepts, adjusts, and evolves. And the evolution wasn't loud, it wasn't flashy, it was in the things that don't get likes, the early mornings, the cold walks, the long reading sessions, the financial discipline, the deep introspection, the hours spent doing work no one applauds you for, and that growth has made you rare, and rare doesn't chase, rare gets chosen. And while she's posting quotes about timing and growth, you're outliving her memories, and you don't need to say a word because your absence is now more powerful than anything you could ever explain. And what's worse for her is that now she sees you the way the world sees you, valuable, purposeful, grounded. And it breaks her because she remembers the version of you that needed her approval to feel whole. And now that you've become whole without her, she no longer knows how to reach you, because your peace isn't performative, your success isn't an aesthetic. It's the result of finally choosing yourself after years of being the emotional cushion for someone who never intended to stay. And if you want to keep that power, you must continue to rise in silence, continue to choose clarity over confusion, direction over drama, and in doing so, you become a man who no longer operates from scarcity. You stop chasing what you can't control, and you begin attracting everything that's meant for a man who holds himself to higher standards. And it's in that space, in that transformation, that she starts to regret. Not because she lost something she deserved, but because she lost the chance to grow alongside someone who never needed fixing, just space to build. And now she's watching the building from afar, knowing that every brick is a reminder that you've become everything she underestimated, and it's too late, because the door she used to walk through freely is now locked behind discipline, vision, and purpose. Number 4. When you don't chase her. She expects the message, the double text, the midnight apology, the validation that confirms she still holds power over your emotions. And when none of that comes, when your phone remains quiet, when your name disappears from her notifications, it unsettles her deeply, because now she doesn't know where she stands. She assumed you'd fold like last time, that your pride would collapse under the weight of missing her, that your ego couldn't survive her silence. But this time, you do nothing. Not out of spite, but out of growth. And it unnerves her, not because she cared the same way, but because her power came from your reaction. And now that reaction is gone, and replaced with purpose, with order, with a man who no longer seeks external comfort to avoid internal discomfort. And now you live differently. You move differently, not bitter but better, and your stillness becomes her mirror, not because you intended to hurt her, but because you finally accepted what she never could. Your value doesn't depend on her recognition, and now that you don't chase, She's left with a version of herself she can't soothe with attention. She starts asking herself questions she's never asked, not because she wants to improve, but because she misses the control. She misses knowing that a single post, a single emoji, a single breadcrumb could bring you running, and now none of that works. You don't engage with passive-aggressive captions. You don't scroll her stories. You don't reply to vague messages because you've detached, not just emotionally but spiritually, and your energy now belongs to you, not to the cycle of confusion she used to thrive on. And when she reaches out, she finds a man who responds with calm disinterest, with boundaries she never respected before, and she realizes she's dealing with someone who's no longer available for the old game. And that realization hits harder than any breakup, because she didn't just lose attention, she lost access. And access is the real currency, the real prize, the real proof of worth. And she knows it because she sees it in your eyes, in your voice, in your schedule, that she's no longer a priority, no longer the center, no longer the muse, and now you prioritize peace over apology, direction over distraction. And she can't handle it because her value was tied to being needed. And when you stop needing, she starts doubting everything. She starts posting more, dressing bolder, trying to replicate your attention elsewhere. But it doesn't hit the same because the attention she craves isn't random. It's yours, the kind that came from a man who actually listened, who actually cared, who actually tried. And she can't recreate that because she never built it. She simply received it. And now that it's gone, she doesn't know how to get it back. And what makes it worse is you're not angry, you're not cold, you're just not chasing. And that indifference slices deeper than any insult ever could. And the people around her start to notice, start to mention how you're doing well, how you look healthier, calmer, more grounded. And now her silence doesn't feel powerful. It feels isolating. And your discipline becomes the proof that she was never in control, just included. And inclusion is earned, not assumed. And you finally understand that chasing someone who enjoys being pursued but not chosen is the fastest way to destroy your identity. And now you rebuild it, brick by brick, ritual by ritual. You reclaim your mornings. You take longer walks. You speak less. You read more. You say no without guilt. You disappear from conversations that used to drain you. And in that space you become dangerous. Not because you threaten anyone, but because you no longer need anyone. And she senses it, and it terrifies her because she knows once a man finds peace within himself, he becomes unreachable to those who only valued him when he was broken. And if you stay in this place, if you remain firm in your purpose, if you continue building without making announcements, you will realize that chasing is not love. It's fear. Fear of losing something you were never meant to keep. And you don't fear that anymore. Because you've seen what happens when you finally stop running toward someone and start walking toward yourself. And that walk becomes your path. And that path becomes your power. And that power becomes your new standard. And from that standard you no longer attract chaos. You repel it. And while she's still confused, still waiting, still testing, you're no longer part of the equation, and the best part is you didn't win by proving her wrong. You won by proving yourself right. Number 5. When another woman values you. She never believed you'd truly move on, not in a real, irreversible way. She always thought she'd be the standard, the memory you'd never replace, the one you'd compare every future connection to. But that illusion begins to collapse the moment she sees another woman valuing the version of you she ignored, not because you're trying to provoke her, not because you're flaunting, but because you're finally being seen the way you always deserved to be seen, respected for your consistency, admired for your integrity, loved without having to beg for basics, and the moment she witnesses that, her entire perception of you fractures. Because now she's watching someone else experience the peace, the strength, the depth that she once had access to but never appreciated. And it hurts not because she loves you, but because she realizes she underestimated you. She gambled your value against her ego and lost. And what breaks her isn't that you moved on. It's that you upgraded in silence. You elevated without making announcements. You found someone who doesn't need to be reminded to value you, who sees your effort and mirrors it, who doesn't test your patience just to feel power, who doesn't require you to lose yourself in order to love her. And now your life reflects a peace she could never give you, and it's not loud, it's not posted for reactions, it's just present. And presence is the one thing she never gave you fully. But now someone else does, and you feel it in your soul, in your routine, in your growth. Because this new chapter isn't about revenge, it's about revelation, the realization that love shouldn't feel like survival, that you don't have to perform to be appreciated, that the right woman won't need to lose you to see your value. And she watches all of this unfold with a tight jaw and a heavy chest, because she knows deep down she had the chance, and she wasted it. And now that you're no longer emotionally available, now that you protect your energy like currency, she wants a refund for a purchase she never paid full price for, and she can't process that someone else has walked into the space she thought would always be hers. And this woman doesn't have to fight to keep your attention, because she doesn't drain it, she refills it, and that contrast exposes everything. It shows her that the problem wasn't your effort, it was her entitlement. It was her inability to receive a good man without trying to break him. And now that she sees you thriving in a connection where you're respected, supported, seen, she spirals, and she won't say it out loud. She'll mask it with fake confidence, with indifference, with distraction, but inside she feels the shift, and no matter how much she tries to replicate your presence, she can't, because value isn't copied, it's earned. And while she's trying to rebrand herself as the one that got away, you're too focused to care, too healed to entertain the past, too disciplined to revisit doors that lead nowhere. And the woman you're with now doesn't make you prove your worth every day. She recognizes it, respects it, nurtures it. And that stability is what sets this love apart. It's not built on drama, it's built on alignment, and that's what makes it unshakable. And now the one who thought she'd always have a place in your story is watching you write a better one without her. And the worst part is, you're not even trying to write her out. She wrote herself out the moment she treated you like an option, and now someone else treats you like a blessing. And the way she looks at you, the way she talks about you, the way she supports you, it all reminds the one who lost you what she threw away. And it's too late, because you're not coming back. Not because you hate her, but because you found peace, and peace is priceless, and you don't give it up for anyone who once disrespected it. And if you're the man going through this, if you're still wondering whether moving on is the right path, understand this. Healing isn't about replacing her. It's about remembering who you are without her influence. It's about building a life so full that her absence feels like freedom, not a gap. And when that happens, when your life becomes rich in value, in purpose, in peace, someone will walk into it and see what she couldn't. And when she does, the regret will hit. Not because you were always the one, but because she finally sees what she was never ready to handle. And by then, you'll be too far ahead to look back. The world isn't built to make men strong. It's designed to keep you chasing approval, silence your instincts, and waste your years on people who never deserved your time. That ends now. If you're ready to finally reclaim your power, your peace, and your purpose, get your hands on the Stoic Relationship Blueprint. This isn't just a book. It's your guide out of confusion, manipulation, and regret. It's packed with timeless Stoic principles that will shift how you think, how you feel, and how you lead your life from this moment forward. And now it's available as an audiobook, so you can start transforming while walking, running, lifting, or just clearing your head. It's linked in the comments, and once you grab it, it's yours for life. Society doesn't want men waking up to this kind of clarity. That's why most never do. Comment, "I'm choosing clarity," if you're ready. Like this video and subscribe. Help more men find these truths and save years of regret.